Councillor Ainslie. Looks like you get to be the cleanup man here.
That's not a bad thing. The Jays are in first place. I'm happy to be the cleanup man.
Thank you. You know the rule. 5 minutes.
I want to thank the board for the opportunity to be back here again. The Chair Pringle said in the April 20th meeting that we probably have a duty or responsibility when it comes to open data and policing to be the leader in this country, and I think that's very important. So I want to also thank Chief Saunders for his diligence in providing the report that's before you today. I had an interesting spring. I was here, as I said, on April 20th. A few days after that, I received an invitation from the police department in the city of Montreal because on April 27th, they launched their open data portal website, and they kindly invited me there to be part of that opening. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend. But I do want to read a quote from their vice chair of their executive committee, who said, "This is open data in policing. This is about transparency in the city administration and innovation." And then they went forward to talk about their open data portal and the data sets that they were going to be releasing, and which I'll touch on a little bit later. But the reason I decided to come back today to address this report is two of the concerns that I had in the report, and this was addressed earlier by one of the deputants as well, is the recommendation in the report that the police department was going to create their own open data portal. We already have one at Toronto City Hall that's been in existence since 2012. One of the things that I've had comments back already, Toronto Public Library, for example, has open data sets. What I've heard since April is a lot of people have said to me that they would prefer that their open data sets should be easy to find. As the member of the executive in Montreal said, this is about openness and transparency, and having them all in one place would continue to make it as open and transparent as possible. The other concern that I have as a city councillor, and I've been a councillor now for 10 years, is a lack of deadlines in the report, which leads to my submission that I sent in. There's 11 different recommendations in it, talking about format, a little more concrete deadlines, and the different goals that I think can be achieved as we're moving forward on this project. One of the things that one of the deputants also touched on earlier was about the quality of the data. And I'm going to use the example of Montreal again, who in one of the data sets that they released was their break-ins for the year of 2015 until March 31st, 2016. So if you go to the City of Montreal, their police department, you will find out that there is 10,860 break-ins in that city in the past year and a half. And one of the ways that they dealt with that was they didn't provide any specific addresses in their data set. They went by the closest intersection to do their best to ensure that there was a privacy of person's individual data. And they've made it very interactive and easy to use. On my phone here, sorry, you can see they have an interactive map. You don't have to be very technically inclined to use this to figure out and use their open data set. They're not going to be releasing any information on sexual assaults, for example. But all the data that they are releasing is going to be machine readable, as unfettered as possible. They're looking at releasing a number of other data sets as well. So when you compare what we're doing here, I think we can move forward a much more advanced nature, which is why I've put forward the 12 recommendations before you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Colleagues, questions? Shelley, you had your hand up?
Yeah, you mean 11 recommendations.
Sorry,
I
keep saying, I removed one that I thought was really controversial.
Oh, okay. So this is interesting, except that some of the things it asks for, I'm not aware of the parallel in the city. Are there some things here where currently you're asking them of both the City of Toronto and agencies, or these exist in Toronto and we don't have them yet? Things like, particularly at the bottom, establishing an open data advisory group going forward, and an independent review process for when we determine that we can't open a data set. Do we have those standards at the city now, or and that advisory group?
So in the past few months, government management committees passed a set of recommendations. I chair the government management committee. The executive committee passed a similar set of recommendations in June, I believe, because one of the concerns that I have is, for myself personally, I don't have time to go to every area where there's open data issues. One of the things that was recommended in that set was for Rob Meikle, the city's CIO, to create an advisory group, which he's in the process of doing, and is going to be reporting back to the Government Management Committee, I believe, in September.
So it's not operational yet, but they're in the process. Would there be benefit, instead of having them in two places, if the goal is to try and pull these things together so that they're in one place? So similar to the TTC, you're asking that we consider not having a separate portal, but being a part of the city open data. Then does it not make sense that instead of setting up a separate advisory committee, we maybe take a role on the city's open data advisory committee that's being set up now?
Yep, I would be fine with that. One of the reasons that I put that recommendation in here for the Toronto Police Services was I think that, you know, the nature of the data and some of the data sets might require a different lens than some of the data you would see at the City of Toronto, for example, in terms of water, wastewater. So that's why that's there.
Okay, so a motion, if we were to move a motion about this, if we were to bundle them together and move perhaps that the Toronto Police Services open data specialists confer with the City of Toronto and report back to us then where they thought there's synergy such that they would just take part in yours, and those that needed to be separate, they could report here. And we would take the deputations here into the context of how we decide to act on their recommendations, so that we can get answers back on all of these recommendations.
Yep, that would be great.
Okay, but not
I think
without
that would be very
talking,
appropriate.
Yeah, but not without talking to the cities first. And there's one in particular that I'm interested if this is happening anywhere, and if government has achieved at least getting a report back on this. Number 6, assess all 2016 FOI requests for their ability to become 2017 open data releases. Is that something that is being reviewed at the city as well?
Well, one of the things that, yes, it is, and one of the reasons that that's there, so since I've been here on April 20th, when I first my presentation, I've had a lot of input from different sources, and you know, the number of the deputants that were here that spoke today before me. But one of the things that I've had reach out from a number of different municipalities. I mentioned Montreal earlier, and one of the, number 6 is here because one of the things that other municipalities have instructed me about is that if you start, the more data that you put up in those data sets actually reduces the number of FOIs that take place, which, you know, when you're talking budgetary constraints at the city or any municipality, starts to reduce those. It frees up staff time, and frees up money that you can be doing other things with.
Right, right. And one last question, and admittedly a leading question, Mr. Chair. When you look at the city site, because people say, well, what's this for? And then the quick and dirty answer, people always say, so that citizens can develop a whole bunch of apps. And there's only really a few in the gallery in the city that have been developed. Is that a function of our not releasing enough yet, not getting enough out there in the quality that there needs to be, or is it just a matter of the more you put out there, the more interested people are going to become? I know that if I go to New York City and I type in transit, I get a ton of apps, well beyond MTA.
Yep.
And they're all citizen developed. We don't seem to have as many. Is that just a matter of we haven't put enough data out there yet?
You've answered your own question, Councillor. You know, if you compare the city of Chicago to Toronto, you know, they opened up their open data portal at about the same time. We have roughly 300 data sets on our portal compared to Chicago. I think is close to 3,000 now. One of the best examples that we have is there's an organization, a group of individuals a couple of months ago that used our licensing data, one of our brand new data sets, and they created an app that people can go and look at the number of inspections that were done on a given apartment building, and you can rate apartment buildings and decide where you want to go. You know, and it's, as I said, it's not all about quantity, it's about quality. You know, I'd be happier if we had a lot less data sets if they're quality-wise and not just quantity. But I think that we're very new to the open data, you know, 285 data sets in the largest city in Canada. You know, the police department has 2 data sets. For example, you can go to any number of other municipalities. I think Montreal is, their police department has 35 or 40 data sets, and they only started releasing them in April.
Any other questions? If not, Mark, do you have anything? This is your report. Is there anything you want to add or respond to?
Well, just a couple of things. And first, I'm very glad that there's a lot of interest and expertise here. So a lot of people have brought a lot to the table for us to consider as we move forward with our plan and what we plan on doing. I also want to, you know, be very cognizant of the potential latent material consequences here with data. We spend a tremendous amount of time whenever we submit reports as open and as transparently as possible, because we try our best to put things in context, not to hide or mislead anybody, but to have a more fulsome picture. So by putting this open data and the type of data that's out there, I mean, heaven help a person that happens to live at a house that is at a corner intersection to a couple of high-rises where a lot of crime is happening on the value of that house when it goes up for sale, or heaven help somebody in a neighborhood that's already stigmatized, and the fact that now we're going to stigmatize it even more with all of this data. So I'm hoping that the agencies that see this data use it as a mechanism to help enhance and rebuild those communities. And of course, when it comes to job criteria, someone goes for a job and the owner starts looking at data as to where that person lives and uses that as leverage, as a deciding factor as to whether or not they're going to hire that person because of where they come from. And if anyone in here is naive enough to not believe that that exists right now, and this will enhance that. That's only one of my concerns, but I certainly, as we move towards transparency and understanding its importance, I'm there to see exactly what we as an agency can do to support that.
Thanks, Mark. Colleagues, anybody else? Mayor Tory?
You know, you sit at these meetings, and I guess not unlike companies or the government itself at the City Hall, and realize how much we ask people to do in the course of trying to move us forward and all these things. But it's a time of rapid change, and this whole open data thing not only relates to our own accountability and transparency in a broader sense than perhaps has been the case in the past, but also I think it's going to be of immense help to the modernization and transformation efforts and so on. And so I put together just a motion here, and don't shudder too much, Chief, but to ask you and your staff colleagues to, I just say here to refer the report back to the staff to give further specific consideration to, and I'll just list these things. One, the question of whether or not, in fact, to create a standalone Toronto Police Service open data portal. And I realize there are arguments seemingly on both sides and experiences on both sides in the other cities. Two, to consider other requests for open data releases contained in the deputation of Councillor Ainslie and the other August 18 deputants, because there's been a number of things mentioned. Three, the establishment of firmer deadlines for progress in the availability of data sets. Four, to give consideration to the releases made available and other standards set by police services in other Canadian cities. We just heard about Montreal by comparison. Five, consider other suggestions contained in the August 18 deputations, because there were several very thoughtful written deputations. And then I just added at the end here that a police representative be assigned to the City of Toronto's, is it an advisory committee? What's it called? The City of Toronto's Open Data Advisory Committee upon invitation to join, so that we're sure that they get plugged in there right away. And I don't have a particular date. I mean, to me, you know, you wouldn't want to see it's April of next year, but you also wouldn't want to say it's next month because they have lots to do. But I just would like to see this work done because I think these points were all fair that were made today. A lot of them were anyway.
Thanks, John. Colleagues, other questions, Mayor Tories? Shelley, Councillor Carroll?
Comments you're
Yep,
taking
yep,
out.
yep, yep.
Well, I'm looking in the city's open data portal, and that what you're looking at, you can just see the black dots from there. Those are all the defibrillators that can be found in my ward. It's an open data set. That's the type of information that I think actually goes directly to the transformational task force. And the kind of thing we're talking about a better interaction between community and police. It's not about bricks and mortar, but about all knowing and understanding what the job of community safety is and doing it together. I think this is a direct compliment to, pardon the pun, to be more open to the idea of open data is only fair that be asked of us as a service and as a service board if we're asking the community to be open to the idea of we're going to get more technological and we're going to be less reliant on the bricks and mortar of our divisions. We know that that's giving them stress, but if we're asking them to be open and we're saying that we can do this with technology, then this, the forefront of being able to partner agencies and use our technology to greatest effect, this is the very essence of it. And so I heartily support the mayor's motion. I think I would have moved it myself. The mayor is right in that we have to catch up with other cities, and particularly in this area, to meet our own goals. My only amendment to it would be, can you get the budget stuff up there in 2 months' time? Because all of these cost centers, you realize, were they out there over the last couple of years, I don't think we would have seen the kind of sort of ham-fisted motions about how we manage our budget that we saw at council that would have made it difficult to do the kind of thoughtful change we're doing. If people could go in, look at the level of complexity and look at the enormity of the task, they'd realize we're doing it in the best way possible. You can see the enormity of the task in the open data sets on our financial complexity and why we have to tackle it piece by piece, unit by unit.
So,
Those are my
recognizing that you can't propose, are you offering to second? Okay. Other colleagues, Councillor Lee, Mr. Jeffers, Dr. Nuria, any other comments? Chief, any further thoughts?
No, if we could just have 3 months, so November.
Yeah, and I think it's also important just to reflect it through the transformational task forces as mentioned, so that that's great. If there are no other comments, we have a motion put forward by Mayor Tory and seconded by Councillor Carroll. All in favor? Any contrary? Carried unanimously. And thank you all very much. And
Thank you, everyone.
thank
I appreciate
you,
it. Actually, sorry,
Councillor
Chair,
Ainslie and
sorry, with your
colleagues.
Sorry, with your indulgence, I just want to take the advice. I'm not sure if the original deputants were here for the first item, the psychiatrist. I would be a bad city councillor. 43 Division represents most of my ward. I just want to say that I want to thank the men and women of 43 Division that I go to the monthly CPLC meetings. My understanding is 43 Division still has some of the lowest crime stats in the entire city. I'm very proud of the men and women that work in that division. They do some very creative policing under the supervision of Superintendent Mark Fenton, and I just wanted to acknowledge all of their work and keeping my community safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So that leaves two more items. These are, the first is item number 6, the Chief Section 11 report, and there are two deputants. Chris Langenfeld first. Chris, it's amazing you've been silent this long.